How's it going, everybody? The 1MFP here. I hope you're all having a great day today. Today we've got something really exciting. If you've been following this channel, I do have a reaction series for a specific band. That specific band being 21 Pilots. If you watch that series from the beginning, you really get the full story of how I've come to discover 21 Pilots. I actually first heard them back in 2015. Hearing Levitate is what made me want to go check out some of their other content. The comments you guys left me on that first Levitate reaction video is really what made me want to go and also document my discovery of this band. But today I'm listening to Trench. This is an album that's highly anticipated by 21 Pilots fans. It's been over 3 years since their last album, Blurryface. I'm personally really interested in hearing this album. It's been around 2 months since that first Levitate reaction video. And in that time, I've listened to Blurryface, Vessel, as well as 4 songs off of this album in Jumpsuit, Nico and the Niners, Levitate, and My Blood. But yeah, in Vessel and Blurryface, we had 2 very strong albums. With Blurryface, we had more of a concept album where both Tyler and Josh really put together a variety of sounds. And I think they gave you a deeper look into the identity of 21 Pilots. They are this band that is able to bring all these different sounds while keeping it very interesting. And there's this prominent concept behind the album of a character being created, a character that represents the difficult things that Tyler is going through, the dark thoughts. So to see Tyler confront those in Blurryface was very interesting. So this album, Trench, is also going to be following a concept. It's a concept that we've seen through the music videos for the songs off of this album. So that's Jumpsuit, Nico and the Niners, and Levitate. And essentially what we have is this city, Dima. I have my thoughts on what Dima represents. You could see those thoughts in my reactions to that series. Again, you could check out the 21 Pilots reaction series I've got on this channel. You'll see all of that. So I won't touch on that right now. I'll listen to these songs, and as I go, I'll kind of formulate my opinion on all that. With that said, it should be really interesting to see how this all plays out. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Matt. I post reaction videos on this channel. If you like that type of content and you like this reaction video, please take the time to check out some of my other reactions. And if you enjoy those, please subscribe. I always appreciate the support. Now let's get right into Trench, Jumpsuit. This is a song I really love. Ever since I first heard it, and you could see my reaction to that if you click the link right above here. I won't mention that as I go through the album, but if I've reacted to it, the link will be above right before the song, so you could click that if you're interested in seeing that. But yeah, ever since I heard Jumpsuit, I've been hooked on it. I love it. That bass riff is so addictive. I just love this song. So yeah, here it is, Jumpsuit. Oh, here we go, guys. Oh, that riff. The drums are so good too. This part's so good.
I'll be right there, but you'll have to grab my throat and lift me in the air. I'll stop my plans, but you'll have to tie me down and then break both my hands. I'll be right there, but you'll have to grab my throat and lift me in the air.
This is so good.
If you need anyone, if you need anyone, I can't believe how much I hate Jumpsuit,
Oh, yes. Matter of fact, let me take that back for a second. Oh. bass, I just have a guitar, so I played that 1 octave higher than it's supposed to be at, but man, it's just so energetic. I love it. And this song is a great way to start this album. I always talk about how crucial the first song on an album is. It really sets the tone, it sets the mood for what's to come. Jumpsuit just gets you so pumped, and one of the important things to think about when you're thinking about 21 Pilots is their versatility. You really see that in the Blurryface album. They had such a wide variety of sounds in that album, front to back. And Jumpsuit really gives you a hint of that. You've got the bass, you've got the drums, they're getting you going, and then they mellow out the sound. And that's where Tyler comes in to sing. Then the chorus rolls around, and the chorus is just pure instrumentals. Then we go back to the mellow sound. We get to the end where it gets really energetic, and Tyler starts screaming. And there you have that variety. You're seeing his ability to really scream in a song and make it fit. So with Jumpsuit, you're getting a glimpse at what this band is able to bring to the plate. And to cover the subject matter a little bit, spirits in my room, friend or foe, felt it in my youth, feel it when I'm old, jumpsuit, jumpsuit, cover me. And then we go into what I'm calling the pre-chorus. I can't believe how much I hate pressures of a new place, roll my way, jumpsuit, jumpsuit, cover me. I can't help but think of the music video when I'm hearing this. You have Tyler in a bit of an isolated space. You know, he's in this canyon and he's confronted by one of the bishops, Nico. On the mountains surrounding him, you've got the Banditos. But this place is essentially what he's talking about. I can't believe how much I hate pressures of a new place. You know, he's feeling isolated. And he hates the feeling that comes with accommodating yourself with this new space you're in, this new mind space. So when you have this chorus of, you know, the music just getting really energetic, I see that as all this noise drowning out what Tyler's thinking about. You know, just picture yourself lost somewhere. You're trying to think and you're having a hard time because there's just so much noise and all of that is taking over. And that's how I see this song is really composed. You have that energetic beat that mellows out, and when it mellows out, that's when you get Tyler talking. That's where you get him trying to explain the feeling. Spirits in my room, friend or foe, felt it in my youth, feel it when I'm old, jumpsuit, jumpsuit, cover me. Here he uses the word spirits, and if we go back to Vessel and Ode to Sleep, he introduces this idea, or at least I think he introduces it in Ode to Sleep. It may have come even before that, but like I said, I haven't gotten to that yet, so I guess I will see with time. But, you know, with Ode to Sleep, he's talking about this time of the day, the night. And in the night, he has all these thoughts that are coming to him, thoughts that are overbearing, thoughts that make him feel really insecure. And as we progress, these spirits almost take on this identity of their own. And essentially, that is what Blurryface represents. He's this person that represents all these insecurities that Tyler has. So here we have spirits in my room, friend or foe. I see spirits as something that's almost synonymous with thoughts, and he doesn't know whether the thoughts are going to help him or go against him. And then we have this bridge at the end. I'll be right there, but you'll have to grab my throat and lift me in the air. If you need anyone, I'll stop my plans, but you'll have to tie me down and then break both my hands. So if we go back to the video again, this is the part where Tyler allows the bishop to approach him, and he starts following the bishop. It's almost as if he's lost hope in a sense, because the bishop is going to be taking him away. Where is he going to be taking him? I guess we'll see throughout this album. Through the videos, it seems like that place is Dima. But in that specific video, you have the bishop riding a white horse, which also represents death. And Tyler has spoken about how death inspires him. Heavy, dirty soul. Death inspires me like a dog inspires a rabbit. So generally speaking, he would run away from death. Here, he's allowing death to approach him, so he's given up hope. But what's interesting about this bridge is he's saying, yeah, I'll be there, but I'm gonna have to be completely defeated for me to allow you to take me. Then we go into, if you need anyone, I'll stop my plans, but you'll have to tie me down and then break both my hands. Interesting thing again, because throughout Blurryface and Vessel, Tyler talked about how important writing is to him. It's how he gets out all these thoughts. It's how he deals with these thoughts. It's how he confronts these emotions. And it's also his way of expressing himself when going through all of this. So here he's saying, if you're gonna take me, you're gonna have to make it so that I'm not able to write. So that's how I see this bridge. And, you know, ultimately we get to the end, and that's where things get really energetic again. Going back to the thought that this chorus is pretty much the instrumentals when they start going up and getting more energetic. It goes up here in the outro, but here you have Tyler screaming, something we didn't get earlier in the song. Earlier in the song, we just let the instrumentals play out. Here in the outro, we have Tyler screaming over them, or at least attempting to scream over them. You have Tyler, you know, showing that emotion, showing that he's regained hope in a sense. He's gonna fight again. So, you know, after all that he said in that bridge, he's saying, you know what, you're gonna have to do such and such for me to give up. Well, he hasn't given up, and he's showing that in the outro. And that's how I heard this song at this stage in the album. Now let's go into the next song, Levitate. It's an interesting placement for the song because the videos were released in the order where it was Jumpsuit, Nico and the Niners, then Levitate. Now we are going from Jumpsuit straight to Levitate. I'm interested to see how that alters the narrative when you listen to the album front to back. Let's see what it's like. Let's get right into it, guys.
Shouldn't show you when it's way too late. My heart is with you hiding, but my mind's not made. Now they know what we've both been for some time, I'd say. Train I got back with one spot back in that slide. I won't need to replace this culture. Is a culture of overexposure. Not today, don't feed me to the vultures like a vulture who feeds on pain. Been several all I knew, get several all I thought. I can depend on my weekends on the freezing ground that I'm sleeping on.
He's writing this beat so well.
Now here comes the heavyweight. Habits here to the way. Structure compensates, but compensation feels a lot like rising up to dominate my track. To at least they all know all they hear comes from a place. Even though I feel on things that fail, you can learn to levitate with just a little help.
Welcome to Trash. Whew. Okay, so that was Levitate. Okay, so first thing I want to say, musically, with Jumpsuit I talked about how it introduces the album well in the sense that you're getting a certain perspective on the identity of 21 Pilots. You know, you have that energetic music that gets turned down for Tyler to start singing. It might not be what you're expecting to hear after hearing that bass riff and those drums, but yeah, it mellows down and Tyler starts singing in a mellow way. Then you get the scream at the end. It presents a certain level of versatility, and I believe that's part of the identity of 21 Pilots. And now with Levitate, we get to see that even more. You put it together, you have the same guy who's singing in the verses for Jumpsuit, the same guy who's screaming at the end of Jumpsuit, who's also rapping in this song. You're really seeing that versatility play out. Now with Trench, at least 2 songs in, it seems like they're going to be going for something similar as they did with Blurryface. Incorporating a lot of different types of sounds that are going to make it hard for you to even classify 21 Pilots in any genre. So I think that's why you have Jumpsuit going into Levitate. It's to really create this contrast, and that contrast is supposed to grab the attention of the listener. The listener's going to be like, whoa, this is the same band? But yeah, let's get into the lyrics for this song. Oh, I know how to levitate up off my feet, and ever since the 7th grade I learned how to fire breathe. Though I feed on things that fell, you could learn to levitate with just a little help. So with where we've come from in Jumpsuit, you know, especially towards the end, it seems like he's referring to that. You know, he talked about almost being defeated in Jumpsuit, feeling really hopeless, not being able to deal with the pressures of a new place, allowing that weight to really weigh down on him. Now here, right in the beginning with Levitate, he's talking about levitating up off of his feet. So he's learned how to deal with these pressures. And ever since the 7th grade, he learned how to fire breathe. I mentioned this in the past, but you know, saying that, it's pretty much like a rap term. I learned how to fire breathe. I learned how to spit fire. Basically means you've learned how to rap well, you've learned how to write well. So that's one thing that's helped him deal with anything that he's gone through. But another thing is he's learned to levitate with a little help. So he's acknowledging something that he talked about as well at length in Vessel. If you're feeling isolated, understand that you're not alone. There's other people in similar positions. And he used this metaphor in Guns for Hands that I really liked. Together, let's breathe together to the beat, but there's hope out the window, so that's where we'll go. Essentially, he's saying, you know, you feel isolated, and there's this metaphor of staying inside, and that's a representation of feeling isolated. You know, not wanting to go outside, not wanting to expose yourself. And he connects that with the expression, there's that out of the window, so that thought is gone, that idea is gone, that possibility is gone. So to say that's hope out of the window, that means hope is no longer an option. You've lost all hope. But then he connects that with escaping the house. Hope is out the window, so we're gonna go chase hope. And in doing so, you know, having multiple people doing so, anybody that's been stuck in isolation, we're gonna connect, we're gonna encounter each other. And while we're at that, let's hold hands, let's all support each other through that. So I feel like he's touching on that with Levitate. The music helps him get through the dark places. The connection with people helps him get through dark places as well. These are the two things that allow him to levitate. Then we go into this section that's saying, come down, cowards only come through when the hour's late and everyone's asleep, mind you. Here, I feel like this is a direct reference to Ode to Sleep. In Ode to Sleep, we talk about these thoughts coming especially when the mind starts getting a little bit more idle, which is at nighttime. That's when, you know, you have nothing ahead of you. It's basically sleep. So you're trying to fall asleep, trying to regain energy for the following day, but that's when these thoughts start attacking you almost. So I feel like he's talking about these thoughts here. Cowards only come through when the hour's late. Another thing to consider here is, you know, when you're dealing with something at night and, you know, you're having troubles falling asleep, generally speaking, if you're having troubles falling asleep, other people have fallen asleep unless they're also dealing with something. So these thoughts tend to only come to him once everybody around him is no longer accessible. Now, show up, show up. I know I shouldn't say this, but a curse from you is all that I would need right now. Here it seems like he's almost taunting these thoughts. He's daring these thoughts to come back to him. You know, it's like he's gained this confidence through music, through the support. He's gained this confidence to go up against these thoughts. So the way I see this is his way of asserting himself. You know, I'm confident now. You only come around when I'm weak. Another thing that plays into that is come down, come down. The album cover for this is a vulture. And he seems to be using these vultures as a representation of these thoughts. The thing that makes me think of that is they're smirking at first blood, they're circling above. So vultures, they feed on carcasses. They'll feed on something that has been beaten down already. So this idea that these thoughts come when you're vulnerable and isolated, he's comparing that to vultures, where vultures feed on things that are already beaten. They're smirking at first blood. They're smirking at the fact that there's a dent in your shield, if you will. There's a crack in your armor. They can see the weakness and they're ready to pounce. And then he counters that with, but this is not enough. Yeah, this is not what you thought. No, we are not just graffiti on a passing train. I got back what I once bought back in that slot I won't need to replace. So here we have a reference to Car Radio off of Vessel, where he says, I have these thoughts so often I ought to replace that slot with what I once bought because somebody stole my car radio and now I just sit in silence. So Tyler's car radio is his way of drowning out the noise. Without the music, he's forced to deal with his dark thoughts in a different way, and he had trouble with it. But now he's saying he's essentially refilled that slot, whether that be through music or the connection that he's established with friends, family, the fans. He's no longer afraid of these thoughts coming to him, or at least that's what he's saying at this point, because he's got that confidence in him. Now let's get into the third song off of this album. It's called Morph.
Can't stop thinking about if and when I die for it. Now I see that if and when I truly different cries for it. If it's purely panic and when it's solemn sorrow, and one invades today while the other spies tomorrow are surrounded. There's no above or under or around it. For above is blind belief, and under is sort of sleep. And around the scientific miracle is picked above and see. For if and when we go above, the question still remains. And that's when going under starts to take my wonder. But until that time, I'll try to sing this.
Oof. Nico? Oh, there we go. This chorus, man, wow.
Anybody listening? Ones and zeros, count to infinity. Ones and zeros, I'm surrounded. Miracle is picked up and see. For if and when we go above, the question still remains. Are we still in love and is it possible we feel the same? And that's when going under starts to take my wonder. But until that time, I'm off to somewhere else.
So that was Morph, and wow, verse 1, we get straight to it. Can't stop thinking about if and when I'll die. And then he divides that. There's if and there's when. If is purely panic, when is solemn sorrow. So when you're saying if I die, it's basically you're going into this situation and you're not sure if you're going to come out of it. So when you're thinking if, you're starting to panic, you're starting to think, oh my goodness, this could be it, this could be the end. Whereas if you're saying when I die, you're talking about the fact that you're not eternal. You do have an expiry date on this planet. One invades today, one spies tomorrow. When you're saying if, it's really affecting you in the present. You're thinking about all the possibilities, all the negative outcomes. Whereas with when, you're talking about the future. And that's where we go into there's no above, under, or around it. Above is blind belief, under is sword to sleeve, and around is scientific miracle. This is a really interesting line because to be above it means you're believing in an afterlife, so to speak. The way I'm seeing it is Tyler is saying nobody comes from the afterlife to tell you that there is absolutely an afterlife. So to be above it is blind belief. You're believing in something, but you can't 100% justify it. Under is sword to sleeve. If you go further, he's saying, and that's when going under starts to take my wonder, but until that time, I'll try to sing. You have this idea of above and under, like as in heaven and hell, but then around is scientific miracle. So I see that as if you even think that there's a way around death, it's because you believe that science will reach a point that will allow you to live forever. You could think that, you know, the memory will live on forever, but with it being scientific miracle, that means like your consciousness after you passed would have to find a way to come back to this planet and witness your memory living on. Because other than that, the memory lives with the people who love you and support you. There's no way for you to even know your memory lives on. But then when we go into this section where he says, the question still remains, are we still in love? And is it possible that we feel the same? So I see this as if and when he goes to heaven, will he still feel the same way about God? And will God feel the same way about him? And that's when his mind starts racing. That's why he starts having another inner conflict. And that's when under starts to take his wonder. And ultimately going under means dying. But until that time, I'll try to sing this. So until he dies, he's gonna sing. That's his way of dealing with any of these thoughts he has. And the chorus is, if I keep moving, they won't know. I'll morph to someone else. What they throw at me is too slow. I'll morph to someone else. I'm just a ghost. I'll morph to someone else. Defense mechanism mode. When you're dealing with something, defense mechanisms are there to protect you, but in some senses, they may also hinder your progression. So morphing, turning into somebody else. I see this as, you know, he talked about this a bit in Vessel as well, taking on a different identity, putting on a mask. This seemed to be his way of appearing a certain way while still going through all of his stuff because he was afraid to expose himself. Music was his way of really sharing those struggles, but, you know, just to speak with somebody and conversate about these things, it seems like that's something that was hard for him. As important as he knows that is to share and to understand that you're not alone, he also recognized how difficult that was and how much easier it was just to put on a mask and pretend like everything was fine. Here it seems like he's talking about something similar. If I keep moving, they won't know. So moving, there may be no aboves, no unders, no arounds, but he doesn't have to directly confront Nico. He could just wander. What they throw at me is too slow, so if I keep my distance, he can't catch up to me. He can't throw something at me that will hurt me. And then verse 2, we really get introduced to Nico. Nico basically is characterized as his tormentor, which essentially means Nico would also be Blurryface. So we have a name for Blurryface. He'll always try to stop me, that Nicholas Bourbaki. He's got no friends close, but those who know him most know. He goes by Nico. He told me I'm a copy. We're surrounded and we're hounded. There's no above or a secret door. What are we here for if not to run straight through our tormentors? But until that time, I'll try and sing this. So he's talked about there's no way around death. There's no way above or beyond it. It's just a reality. Now in verse 2, he's talking about Nico, and he's still talking about the idea of going above, under, the fact that there's no way around it. If there's no secret door to get away from Nico, then you have no choice but to deal with these negative thoughts, these dark thoughts. When he's saying, what are we here for if not to run through all our tormentors, I'm seeing this as part of our purpose in life is to get through these bad situations. That's the way I see this song, really. It's like this realization that there's no way around certain things, death being one of them, these dark thoughts being another. And that's Morph. Next song off of this album is My Blood.
When everyone you thought you knew deserts your fight, I'll go with you. get so raw. I'll shred them all and go with you. When choices end, you must defend. I'll grab my bag. You don't need to run, stay with me. You don't need to run, stay with me. You don't need to run. There comes a day, people posted up at the end of your driveway. They're calling for your head and they're calling for your name. I'll bomb down to them, I'm coming through. You don't need to run, stay with me. You don't need to run, need to run. If you find yourself in a lion's den, I'll jump right in and pull my pin and go with you. I'll go with you. I'll go with you. But I'll go with you. Yeah. Stay with me. You don't need to run. Stay with me. You don't need to run. Stay with me. You don't need to run.
Alright, so that was My Blood. The first time I heard this song, I was under the impression that it was from Nico's perspective. One of the things that really made me feel that was, you don't need to run. Stay with me, my blood. I was thinking, who would need to be convinced that they didn't need to run? And with the sequence we had from Jumpsuit, Nico and the Niners, Levitate, and how Levitate ended, it did seem like Nico had a hold of Tyler and was bringing him to Dima. It made sense to me that this would be a song from Nico's perspective, trying to convince Tyler that he should stay within Dima's walls. And you guys kind of showed me a different perspective to this song. Now listening to My Blood, after listening to Jumpsuit, Levitate, and Morph in that order, I definitely heard it from a different perspective than I did the first time. With Jumpsuit, we had the feeling that Tyler was in a place of isolation, and he was kind of drowning within all the outside noises, and he had difficulties dealing with the pressures of a new place. By the end of that, he was somewhat regaining confidence, and once Levitate came in, that confidence was really apparent. Then with Morph, we switched it up a little bit, and we went back to this perspective of Tyler dealing with negative thoughts and having difficulties dealing with those thoughts. Now, going back to prior albums, Tyler talks about not being alone. There are people out there dealing with similar issues. And through his songwriting, he is trying to reach out to some of those people. And he references that in one of the tracks, Fake You Out. He says, they feel they have no control of their prisoner's cell. And if you're one of them, then you're one of me, and you would do almost anything just to feel free. The prisoner's cell he's talking about is the mind, people feeling trapped within their mind. And people in that situation would do just about anything just to feel free. Well, he's saying if you're one of those people, then you're one of him, you're his people. So here in My Blood, it feels like he's talking to those same people. Verse 1, it starts, when everyone you thought you knew deserts your fight, I'll go with you. You're facing down a dark hall, I'll grab my light, and I'll go with you. One of the fears with coming out and really telling people what you're going through is you make yourself vulnerable enough to really share that information. What happens if the person you're telling that to kind of ignores it, if you will, or just doesn't take it seriously? Well, I feel like here Tyler's talking to anybody who has that fear. When everyone you thought you knew deserts your fight, I'll go with you. So anybody who does end up sharing their struggles, say, there is a really terrible situation where the person they shared their struggles with ended up giving up on them, Tyler will be there for you. You're facing down a dark hall, I'll grab my light. So again, we have this imagery of being in a dark place, while Tyler is saying, I will help you light up that dark place. Surrounded and up against a wall, I'll shred them all and I'll go with you. When choices end, you must defend. I'll grab my bat. I'll go with you. You may feel like you're in this type of confinement. You may feel trapped within your own mind. You've got these walls up around you and you can't see beyond them. But Tyler's gonna find you and break those walls. When he's saying, stay with me, no, you don't need to run. And it can be scary to really make yourself vulnerable enough to share whatever it is you're going through. So you're more likely to just run away from the situation. It's kind of similar to what he touched up on in Morph. It's hard to really confront your issues. And the way I saw Morph is he's kind of trying to tiptoe around his issues and stay away from them. So here he's saying, you don't need to run. As dark as it may get, when you confront your issues, I'll be there for you. So that's the way I saw My Blood. I really like what this adds to the album. I talked about the diverse sound and you know, this album really starting on that note with Jumpsuit and then Levitate. Morph also, you know, extended on that. My Blood is really the pinnacle of it. The chorus to this is so unique. If you haven't heard prior albums, this is sure to surprise you. So I really like that. Now, the next song on the album is song number 5, and that's Chlorine. Let's get right into it. Alright, so that was Chlorine. The first thing that really stands out as you're listening to this song is I'm sipping on straight chlorine, let the vibe slide over me. And then we go into this beat is a chemical. With him talking about sipping on straight chlorine and saying the beat is a chemical, it seems like he's, you know, sipping on the beat essentially. Let the vibe slide over him. He's allowing himself to be lost in the music. The moment is medical, sipping on straight chlorine. So with the moment being medical, I think that's his way of saying whenever things are getting bad, he's allowing himself to be taken away by the music. He's letting the music consume him. That's his way of dealing with whatever he's going through. And then we have the verse, loving what I'm tasting, venom on my tongue, dependent at times, poisonous vibration, help my body run. He's almost talking about music as a drug in a sense. He's addicted to it in a certain way. And then we have this third verse where he's saying, had you in my coat pocket, where I kept my rebel red, I felt I was invincible, you wrapped around my head, now different lives I lead, my body lives on lead. So now it feels like he's talking to someone again. He could be talking to Blurryface, who is now Nico. And, you know, going back to earlier in this album, especially in Levitate, where we felt Tyler had this certain sense of confidence, he felt like he had all of that behind him, all of those struggles. But then just as he felt that, Nico wrapped around his head. His mind started getting filled with those negative thoughts again, and we really started to see that in Morph. And now different lives I lead. This is an interesting line because by the end of Blurryface, I think it's in Goner, Tyler talks about having two faces. Blurry's the one he's not. So he's got multiple personalities, he feels. One that's characterized by his dark thoughts, and then the other that's trying to combat his dark thoughts. Even if we consider the fact that he puts on a facade sometimes just to hide what he's going through, that's another identity. My body lives on lead. Lead is something that's poisonous, so if his body runs on lead, it's running on something destructive. And even earlier in this song, he's talking about loving what he's tasting, venom on his tongue, poisonous vibrations. So he's talking about all these toxic things that he's kind of dependent on. Even the end of this verse, he's saying, I love to hate the fight. He's got this dark presence within him that, you know, on one side he seems to wish he could eliminate it, but on the other side he does seem to understand its importance. Having this presence within him, it is destructive to his life, but perhaps it's helping him cope with some other things. Perhaps it's the inspiration for his music, so he likes that. Earlier on in the song, I related music to the chemical chlorine. By the end of the verse, again, he says, I love to hate the fight, and you in my life is like sipping on straight chlorine. So now we're tying in these dark thoughts with music. It's something that he's put together in the past, allowing the dark thoughts to really help him move his pen, if you will. Sometimes the dark thoughts were too powerful for him and it was hard for him to do anything. He was kind of in a state of paralysis. And in those cases, he just had to write anything. It's something that he talked about early on in Heavy Dirty Soul off of Blurryface. Rapping to prove nothing, just writing to say something. There's two sides to it. It's allowing him to be creative, but he's also understanding the destructiveness. So I was a bit confused by this outro, but looking at the title for the next song on this track list, I feel like we might have more insight moving forward. Can you build my house with pieces? And the next song is Smithereens. I'm just a chemical, so I'm thinking, is this the music talking to him at the end of the song? Let's see, maybe Smithereens has the answers. Let's get right into it.
You know, I've always been collected, calm and chill. And you know just what I'm feeling. For you, I go step to a dude much bigger than me. For you, I know I would get messed up with 153. I'll be in the corner taking notes.
I think I just got this one. Alright, so that was Smithereens. You guys technically helped me understand this one, just through helping me understand Tear in My Heart. If you've watched my Blurryface reaction, you see that I kind of misinterpreted what Tear in My Heart was about. I was kind of caught up in the saga between Blurryface and Tyler. Tear in My Heart ended up being about Tyler's wife. Now here in the bridge where he said, I had to do one on the record for her like this, I was thinking, okay, for her, who is he talking about? And he's saying one, so this isn't going to be necessarily a reoccurring theme throughout the album. So he's not going to be talking to Nico, he's not going to be talking to these dark thoughts, he's talking to somebody else. And with Tear in My Heart, I just kind of put it together, and I figured that this would be about his wife. I think it's about his wife. That kind of may be giving us more perspective as to the end of Chlorine. Can you build my house with pieces? I'm just a chemical. So it is still possible that the end is just the song talking to Tyler, but I am also seeing it in a different perspective where maybe he's saying that he's become the chemical that he's been consuming. He's been living off of this music, so he's allowed the music to somewhat consume him. He's asking for help. Can you help build a house with my pieces? He's asking her, can you help me rebuild, reform a being or a structure? And you go into this song, Smithereens. He's saying, for you, I'd go step to a dude much bigger than me. For you, I know I would get messed up. For you, I would get beat to smithereens. So that's basically his way of saying he would do just about anything for her. And that's how I see Smithereens. It's a song dedicated to somebody he loves, and it's him speaking on how much she means to him and what he'd do for her. He would sacrifice everything for her. Now, the next song on this album is Neon Gravestones. intriguing title because gravestones, they're in cemeteries. Cemeteries are associated with darkness, so neons being something bright. We've got a bit of a contrast here. Let's see what the song's gonna be talking about. Let's get right into it. Beautiful piano here. This is an odd sound here.
What's my problem? Well, I want you to follow me down to the bottom underneath the insane asylum. Keep your wits about you while you got them, cause your wits are first to go while you're problem solving. And my problem would glorify those even more when they. My opinion, our culture can treat a loss like graving. An earlier grave is an optional way. No. Beyond gravestones, try to call. Beyond gravestones, try to call. What's my problem? Don't get it twisted. It's with the people we praise who may never give up and boost up my reputation. I could go out with a bang, they would know my name. My opinion, it's real convenient. Our words are loud, but now I'm talking action. We don't get enough love, well, they get a fraction. They say, how could he go if he's not everything? I'll mourn for a kid, but won't cry for a king. Beyond gravestones, try to call. Promise me this. If I lose to myself, you won't mourn a day, and you move on to someone else. Beyond gravestones, try to call. Beyond gravestones, try to call for my bones. Don't get me wrong, the rise in awareness is beating a stigma that no longer scares us. But for sake of discussion and spirit of fairness, could we give this some room for a new point of view? And could it be true that some could be tempted to use this mistake as a form of aggression? It won't resonate in our minds. I'm not disrespecting what was left behind, just pleading that it does not get glorified. Maybe we swap out what it is that we hold so high. Find your grandparents or someone of age. Pay some respects for the path that they paved, to life they were dedicated. Now that should be celebrated.
Wow. That was powerful. Wow. Right off the bat, he's saying, what's my problem? Well, I want you to follow me down to the bottom, underneath the insane asylum. Keep your wits while you got them, because wits are the first thing to go while you're problem solving. So, you know, he's painting this picture to start the song. You're going to be going somewhere that may be confusing at first, so you're going to be trying to understand it. When you do not fully comprehend something, you're going to start making assumptions, you're going to start trying to jump to conclusions just to make sense of what's going on. So here he's urging you to really take your time with this and understand. And I really like where he goes here, because at first I really didn't get it. He's saying we glorify those even more when they, my opinion, our culture can treat a loss. He didn't complete that sentence. He just went somewhere else. And the beat really plays into this really well too, because as the song was playing, I did say, well, this is odd. That was me just reacting to the fact that it almost seems like you have two beats going. It just created this eerie vibe. I thought maybe the computer was glitching and I was getting the song playing twice, but no, that's actually the way the song is going, and him cutting himself off kind of made me realize, okay, this is the direction they're going in with this. And the chorus is, neon gravestones try to call. Before the song even started, I talked about this contrast. You have neon, that's something that's bright, whereas gravestones, you associate that to cemeteries, and cemeteries are dark. So what were they going for there? I'm thinking that with the subject matter, he's talking about the fact that death could be appealing to some. It's his opinion. It's something that he stated earlier in the song. It's his opinion. Verse 3 is really what helped me understand all of this, because, you know, he says, don't get me wrong, the rise in awareness is beating a stigma that no longer scares us. But for the sake of discussion and spirit of fairness, could we give this room for a new point of view? And could it be true that some could be tempted to use this mistake as a form of aggression, thinking I'll teach them? Well, I'm refusing the lesson. Some people may be attracted to the gravestone, and, you know, gravestone representing death. And he doesn't like this. You know, in the bridge he's saying, promise me this, if I lose to myself, you won't mourn a day and you'll move on to someone else. He's saying if his life were to come to an end, it's because he lost the battle, and that's not something to be glorified. He doesn't want to be remembered for this. And verse 3, he really goes much deeper into this. He's saying they're using this as a way to get attention because it's been getting attention. You know, it's almost like their voices aren't heard, so they're going to use this as a way to make sure they're heard. And he's saying, well, I'm refusing the lesson. It won't resonate in our minds. I'm not disrespecting what was left behind. I'm just pleading that it does not get glorified. So he's saying that he's not disrespecting anyone that's gone through this and anybody who this has affected. He's just pleading that, you know, death doesn't get so glorified and life gets a little bit more praise. He ends with, find your grandparents or someone of age, pay some respects for the path that they paved. To life they were dedicated. So he's using grandparents or someone of age to transmit this message because they're people who got through life. And he's also said in the past that everybody deals with fear. So if you've made it to old age, it's because you've made it through a lot. Nobody just gets an easy path. So they definitely deserve more attention than what they get. And this actually makes me think of another song off of Vessel, Truce. He says, take pride in what is sure to die. When he said that, I saw that as him saying, you know, your life is not eternal. Your time on this planet is not eternal. Cherish it. Here, I feel like he's saying something similar. Life is something that has its ups and downs. There's going to be the hard times. There's going to be good times. Anybody who makes it to old age is because they've gone through a lot. So pay your respects to anybody who has gone through life. I think in this song, he's saying he's happy with the rise in awareness. He does believe it's helping anybody who is going through anything. But he also does feel like there is this other point of view where individuals are not getting the attention they require. Awareness of mental illness may help us approach situations where individuals choose to take their own lives in a different manner, you know, maybe take it in a more positive way and celebrate those individuals' lives. People could be using this now. They may not be getting the attention they feel they need while they are here, and they think that taking their own lives may send a message. So I feel like he's saying, well, more attention needs to be given to life. We're seeing death in this different way now. Maybe we also need to be thinking about life in a different way. Maybe we need to be giving more attention to people while they still are here. And that's the way I saw Neon Gravestones. Now the next song on this album is called The Hype. Let's get right into it.
Sometimes I feel cold, even paralyzed. My interior world needs to sanitize. Nice to know mankind will be on my side. I don't believe the hype. Yeah, they might be talking behind your head. Your exterior world can step off instead. It might take some friends and a warmer shirt. Don't get thick skin without getting burned. And you know you're on the terrible side, but you'll be just fine. Just don't believe the hype. No, I don't know which way I'm going, but I can hear my way around. No, I don't know which way I'm going, but I can hear my way
The
around.
ukulele's back.
No, I don't know which way I'm going, but I can hear my way around. But I can hear my way around. I don't believe the hype. And you know you're on a terrible side, but you'll be just fine.
Alright, so that was The Hype. The hype he's talking about seems to be things you tell yourself in your mind. You're afraid that whatever it is you're going through, whatever it is you will be going through, you're afraid that you'll be in it alone, for one, but you're also just thinking about how bad it would be or how bad it is. He's telling you, don't believe the hype. It's nice to know my kind will be on my side. He's talked about not being alone, and he's going back to that idea. He's not alone. It's nice to know that. He's found comfort in that. You know you're a terrible sight. You know you've taken your mask off. You've made yourself vulnerable. You've made your problems known. And you think that makes you a terrible sight. But everything's gonna be fine, so don't believe the hype. In the verses, he's talking about some of these thoughts. He's talking about some of the things he could be going through or some of the things he may be thinking. Verse 1, he's saying, sometimes I feel cold, even paralyzed. My interior world needs to sanitize. So, sometimes he just feels so uncomfortable and it feels like he needs a cleansing of some kind. Verse 2, he's saying, yeah, they might be talking behind your head. Your exterior world can step off instead. It may take some friends and a warmer shirt, but you don't get thick skin without getting burnt. I see this as him going back to verse 1. Sometimes I feel cold. Well, you might need a warmer shirt to feel warm again. It may take some friends. So maybe it's not something you should be dealing with on your own. You might need some good friends around you to help you get through whatever it is you're going through. Yeah, perhaps people may be talking about you, but whatever, who cares about them? No matter what, no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, somebody's going to be talking bad about you. That's just inevitable. So that's not really something you should be paying attention to at this point in time. You might need some good friends around you to help you get through whatever it is you're going through, but you don't get thick skin without getting burnt. He's saying you have to go through these things. You have no choice. Going through these things will allow you to better cope with whatever issues you may have in the future. You're developing thick skin. You're helping your chances at dealing with further issues in the future. So that's what I made of the hype. We have Tyler once again going back to this idea of not being alone. It's something that's been important in this album. In Levitate, we talk about this confidence he has and, music being one of the things that's allowed him to levitate. The other being getting a little bit of help, having friends, family, support overall. In My Blood, he talks about being somebody that people can turn to if they're going through something. He'll be right there for you. And yeah, that's what I make of this. So now next song is Nico and the Niners. Another song that we've heard in the past that's come out prior to the album being released. It's a single, it's got a music video, but let's see how it fits into the album at this stage. Let's get right into it.
Jumpsuit is unsteady. I'm lighter when I'm lower. I'm higher when I'm heavy. Oh, my jumpsuit takes me so high. I'm flying from a fire. From Nico and the Niners. Oh, East is up. I'm careless when I wear my rebel clothes. East is up. When bishops come together, they won't know that demon don't control us. Demon don't control us. I'm heavy. I'm flying from a fire. From Nico and the Niners. Oh. What I say when I wanna be enough, what a beautiful day for, I'm making a break for, we'll find a way to pay for it, maybe from all the money we made, raise a fake stores, to raise horse and force a sponsor, and start a concert, a complete diversion, start a mob, but you can be quite certain we'll win, but not everyone will get out. No, I'm careless when I wear my rebel clothes. Pieces up, when bishops come together, they will know that demon don't control us, demon don't control us. Pieces up.
Alright, so that was Nico and the Niners. It's just such a laid back song, and we have the first mention of Dima here. I think this is the first direct reference to the word Dima. And because of the music videos, we have this idea of what Dima represents. Dima represents this area that is trying to control whoever comes within it, and the bishops do represent these authority figures that are trying to ensure that you conform to Dima's standards. But without the music videos, without the website and Clancy's letters, you may not be able to pick up on that. But one thing you would pick up on if you didn't watch the music videos, if you didn't check out the demo website, you have mention of the Jumpsuit. In Jumpsuit, which is the first song off of this album, Tyler talks about jumpsuit, jumpsuit, cover me. So the jumpsuit is supposed to offer him some type of protection. Here he's saying, I'm heavy, my jumpsuit is unsteady. I'm lighter when I'm lower, I'm higher when I'm heavy. My jumpsuit takes me so high. I'm flying from a fire from Nico and the Niners. Another mention we have is Nico. Nico first came up in Morph. With Morph introducing Nico as somebody that tries to stop Tyler, that's an obstacle for Tyler. That's somebody that Tyler has to get through. When Tyler says he's flying from a fire from Nico and the Niners, this jumpsuit, this fire, him being able to levitate, this is all positivity that's allowing him to get away from the negative thoughts, that's allowing him to get away from the insecurities. One thing I really found interesting here is, with the East is Up section, the hook, he's saying, East is up, I'm fearless when I hear this on the low, East is up, I'm careless when I wear my rebel clothes. I'm guessing the rebel clothes is the same thing as the jumpsuit. And in Levitate, we talk about Tyler levitating, we talk about him here flying from a fire, so another way of saying levitating. In Levitate, it did seem like he was getting a bit careless, he was getting arrogant, he had this confidence, he was almost taunting those dark thoughts. I found it interesting that he says that here, I'm careless when I wear my rebel clothes, and his justification is, when the bishops come together, they will know that Dima don't control us. It feels like here, Tyler is saying, those bishops, they could assemble, they could try and control us, but they won't achieve it. And then you have that second verse where he starts rapping. It's an interesting section of the song because he's saying, what I say when I want to be enough, what a beautiful day for making a break for it. Force a sponsor and start a concert, a complete diversion, start a mob, and you can be quite certain we'll win, but not everyone will get out. You get the sense that he's part of something bigger. It feels like he's talking about everybody he's talked about in the hype, my kind. Nice to know my kind will be on my side. It feels like he's talking about those same people. His kind will be making a break for it. So they've been stuck in a confinement. They've been prisoners. They'll find a way to make a break for it. We'll start a concert, a complete diversion. As we've covered a few times, music is a way for Tyler to deal with his emotions. So whatever it is that they're going through as a group, this concert will be a way for them to escape. It's really cool because in real life they also had that concert called A Complete Diversion. But just looking at this song itself, that's the way I'm interpreting that. Now we're on to song number 10, and that's Cut My Lip. Let's see what that's all about. This follows Nico and the Niners really well. Vocals are really beautiful on this. Is this still Tyler? picking up the pace here towards the end. So that was Cut My Lip, and I'll never cease to be amazed with the diversity of sounds that 21 Pilots bring. And on Trench, they're really, going all out with that. Bunch of different types of sounds. This one has a tempo that follows Nico and the Niners really well. Same type of beat almost, so it feels like they feed into each other. Vocals are very interesting, they're beautiful, and they left me in awe. Subject matter, I'll keep on trying, might as well. If you decide all is well, I'll keep on trying. So this is a conversation he's having. It seems like once more he's having a conversation with a divine presence. He's saying, though I am bruised, face of contusions, no, I'll keep moving. We've talked about this idea of masking reality, putting on a mask to hide whatever it is you're going through. He's saying he's got a face of contusions, so whatever he's going through, that pain is on his face. It's on full display. Without the mask, you'll see it all. And despite those bruises, he'll keep on moving. Those won't bother him. So you put those two together, the first verse and where we go into that next section, perhaps he may have been a bit concerned with where he was at, but through this conversation he's found a certain level of comfort. And then we go into this chorus, rust around the rim, drink it anyway, I cut my lip. The interesting thing about this is before even drinking from that cup, he noticed that there was rust around the rim. So he understood the dangers. Then verse 2 is, I keep on going back, even though it's me I abused, I'll keep on going back. Whatever he's choosing to do, that thing is hurting him. And despite it hurting him, he still makes the conscious decision of going back to it. Then we go into this bridge. I don't mind at all, lean on my pride. I'm a lion, I don't mind at all, lean on my pride. This is an interesting thing. I don't know if it's wordplay he's going for. If you just hear, I don't mind at all, lean on my pride, it sounds at first like he's saying, I'm gonna keep making this mistake because I feel like I have no choice almost. I've committed to drinking from this cup, so I'm gonna keep drinking from this cup despite me knowing that it's hurting me. I don't wanna live with having made a wrong decision, so I'll just pretend like it's the right decision. But then he says, I'm a lion. The pride for a lion, that's the lion's group. We've talked about how important Tyler sees this connection he has with people who support him. So he's saying whatever it is he's going through, he can lean on them and he knows that he'll be okay. So now if we go back to verse 1, maybe that conversation he's having, maybe it's still with that divine presence, or maybe he's talking to his supporters, people who are his friends, his family, or people who love him overall. So I found that to be an interesting segment of this song. I feel like it really ties everything together. You have this repetition of, I am bruised, face of contusions, I am drinking from this rusted cup, cut my lip, I didn't want it, but now there's blood on my tongue. You're kind of wondering where he's going with this, like he's making this decision to drink from something that he knows could possibly hurt him, and it hurts him, and he decides to proceed anyway. Now by the end of it, with this bridge, you're thinking, okay, he's okay with it because he knows whatever he'll go through, whatever issues he'll deal with, he's got support, and that will always help him move forward. And that's what I made of Cut My Lip. Now the next song off of this album is Bandito. And if you take into account the music videos that came prior to this album, you know that the Banditos represent Tyler's support system. It represents the clique. It represents friends, family. Coming off what we just talked about in Cut My Lip, about Tyler being a lion and he can lean on his pride, he can lean on this family. I feel like Bandito is going to follow up really well from there. We already had a really good follow-up in sounds with Nico and the Niners, then Cut My Lip. I feel like Bandito is going to build off of Cut My Lip really nicely, at least with the subject matter. So let's see what it has in store for us. Song number 11, off of Trench, Bandito. This is nice.
I feel my spirit is contained. Like neon inside the glass, they form my brain. But I recently discovered it's a heatless fire. But I'm still not sure if fear's a rival or close relative to truth. Either way, it helps to hear these words bounce
It's a
off
strong
the
line.
softest echo could be enough for me to make it through.
What does that mean?
I created this world to feel some control. Destroy it if I want. So I sing sun. I can
Wow. Beautiful song. The vocals on here are amazing. The instrumentals complement that really nicely as well, or the vocals complement the instrumentals really well. I can't decide which I like better, but beautiful song. Now, in this song, we're talking about Dima, and he's saying, "In city, I feel my spirit is contained like neon inside glass. They form my brain, but I recently discovered it's a heatless fire. But I'm still not sure if fear's a rival or a close relative to truth." Just to start it off, Dima was this place of confinement. The bishops are figures of authority who try to ensure that you stay within the confinements of Dima. By the end of the song, you realize that Tyler has understood that he created this world. Dima is a place in his imagination. It's a place that he conceptualized. It's based on reality, but at the end of the day, reality is about perception as well. So if he wants to destroy that perception, if he wants to break through these walls, if he wants to get outside of this confinement, he needs to destroy this concept. He created this world to feel control. This concept he put together allowed him to better understand things he was going through, but at the same time, it was keeping him trapped. So to destroy this concept, to destroy Dima in his mind, means escaping Dima. One thing that comes up a lot in the song is Salvo Folina. I don't know what that means. I wish I did. I feel like that's something important here. You guys let me know in the comments down below if you do know what it means. But yeah, still with, I created this world to feel some control, destroy it if I want. I feel like that's really powerful, just going off of this whole concept of what Dima represents in the first place. And it comes in at the right spot, right after verse 2, where he talks about feeling confined in the city. That's what I thought of Bandito. That was song number 11. Now we're going into song number 12. And that's gonna be Pet Cheetah. Let's see what Pet Cheetah has in store for us. That was unexpected. This is cool. So that was Pet Cheetah, and this song feels like it came from a place of lack of inspiration. Right off the bat, he says, I'm on an island, no one to confide, 8 days straight, 8 hours each, and not one line. So I'll take this beat I should delete to exercise. You know, with that in mind, he's talking about being alone on an island, whereas prior to this song and this album, he's talked about the Banditos being able to lean on his pride. Essentially in different ways, he's talked about the fact that he wasn't alone. Now here he is talking about being alone. He could feel that pressure starting to come back on him. It's interesting because music is what he turns to for help. And here it's almost as if music is turning on him. And the reason for it comes a little bit later in the song. I'm done with tiptoeing, I'll stay in my room. My house is the one where the vultures are perched on the roof. Get behind me, I bet this nepotistic mindset will help us get ours as we're growing. This click means so much to this dude. It can make him afraid of his music and be scared to death he could lose it. Here he's talking in third person. The way I see it is, the dark thoughts in his mind are trying to get Tyler to think that the people who are on his side are actually against him in a certain way. He's trying to flip it on him, saying that there's a certain expectation. Right now, yeah, sure, music is working out for you, but these vultures are outside on your roof. They're just waiting for that moment of weakness. And there's this thought that the dark side of him is trying to plant within him that, you know what, you better make really good music or else you could lose it all. So we have something interesting here where Tyler's feeling uninspired with this beat, and under normal circumstances, he would just get rid of this beat. But he feels like that would be a sign of weakness. He feels like the reason he's unable to write to this beat is because he's allowing his thoughts to get the better of him. So he's gonna use this beat to exercise. He's gonna move slow. He's gonna take his time with this. He's gonna sit here and reflect. He's gonna wait until he figures out what the problem is. I've got a pet cheetah down in my basement. I've raised him and bathed him and named him Jason Statham. I've trained him to make these beats. Now my pet cheetah is quicker in the studio than on his feet. That's a great line because, I mean, the cheetah is the fastest land mammal, and this pet cheetah he raised is quicker in the studio than he is on his feet. So maybe this beat is moving at a pace that he's unaccustomed to. He's having issues following it. But he uses this as training to really focus, to understand how to set his own pace despite however anything else in life may be going. If you let the things around you dictate the pace of your life, you might have a hard time adjusting. The right way he feels for him to deal with that is to set his own pace, to, you know, get into it, but slow it down to a point where he's comfortable with it. So I feel like that's what he was going for with this song. This pet cheetah is making beats for him that he's not necessarily comfortable with, but he's gonna find a way to get on it and give us something good. And that's how I saw this song, and I really liked it. The concept is really cool, the sound is really cool, great lyrics. This is a really good one. Now the next one off of this album is Legend. That's song number 13. Let's get right into it. Alright, so that was Legend. And I saw you guys leave comments in prior 21 Pilots reactions that this song is about Tyler's grandfather. It must have been on Vessel because that's also where you guys brought up that Tyler's grandfather is on the album cover for that album. And you guys also mentioned that his grandfather unfortunately passed away. Now this song being dedicated to him, he's talking to his grandfather. Now with the way this song has gone, it seems like his grandfather had issues with his memory. Verse 1 said, "Did not know how to take it when your eyes did not know me like I know you." So perhaps Tyler was having issues going to see his grandfather, and he was writing this song for him when he was still here. Tyler deals with whatever he's going through his music. Perhaps writing this song was his way of dealing with his thoughts. He's talking about an issue he had, did not know how to take it when your eyes did not know me. Very personal song, saying you were one of those classic ones. So this person is somebody Tyler really appreciated. He ends the song with, "I look forward to having lunch with you again." So he looks forward to seeing him again, in another world, in the afterlife, and it's a beautiful song. Now we go into the last song, "Leave the City." So we could only assume that this city is the same one he's talking about in Bandito, which is Dima. Let's get right into it. Song number 14 and last song off of Trench, "Leave the City."
I'm tired of tending to this fire. I've used up all I've collected. I have cinched my hands. It's glowing. Embers barely showing. Proof of life in the shadows. Dancing on my plans. They know that it's almost over. They know that it's almost. They know that it's almost over. The burning is so low it's concerning. 'Cause they know that when it goes out, it's a glorious gone.
Wow.
In time, I will leave the city. For now, I will stay alive. They know that it's almost over. They know that it's almost. They know that it's almost over. They know. Last year, I needed change of pace. Couldn't take the pace of change. Moving hastily, but this year, though I'm far from home, entrenched, I'm not alone. These faces facing me, they know what I mean.
That was "Leave the City," the last track off of Trench. Beautiful song. Great way to end the album. 21 Pilots, just through listening to the past two albums, they really tend to end it on a certain note. It's an emotional note. You really feel the song. Hits you right in the core. That's what you feel here with "Leave the City." You have this idea of Dima, and it's not something that's been as prominent as I thought it would be in this album. It's a theme for sure. Overall, the idea is there, but it's not something that comes up on every song per se. It's not something that's been talked about more than it was talked about prior to this album's release. So I feel like those music videos for Jumpsuit, Nico and the Niners, and Levitate were really supposed to give you the full picture there with what Dima is. Another strong theme that was in the videos was fire. Fire represented something positive. It was like a burning desire. And in Dima, instead of this fire, this natural fire, you have neon inside glass, which is meant to replicate the fire in the sense that it's a light, but it's contained within glass. It's a heartless fire. So the fire that Tyler is alluding to, the fire that's been represented earlier in the music videos, is something that comes from within. It's something that's natural. It's lighting up dark places. It's something he's flying on to get away from Nico and the Niners, so it's allowing him to levitate. It's all kinds of positive, but he's saying he's tired of tending to this fire. He needs to keep this fire alive. And now the embers are barely showing. The fire is diminishing. And now the shadows are starting to appear again. The shadows being the dark thoughts. And they're dancing on his plans. So everything he said about being confident and moving forward, he'll be okay. He's saying that these thoughts are starting to get back to him. And it gets scary. You get a feel that he's talking about those vultures that are sitting outside of his home, waiting for that moment of weakness. You almost get a similar feel to what we had with Goner at the end of Blurryface, where Tyler had been through so much and he made it onto the other side, but he was also feeling defeated in a certain sense. He was feeling beat down, he was feeling vulnerable. He really poured his heart and soul into that music, into what he wrote to put out on that album, and he had to battle it out with his thoughts. So yes, he may have won that battle, but that war was far from over, and he was scared of where that could go. And to further make it feel relatable to Goner, in the song he's saying, "In time I will leave the city, for now I will stay alive." Stay alive, that goes back to Goner. In time I will leave the city. He's saying that he's still stuck in the city. He's still stuck in Dima. He's not able to break free of his mind. He's not able to break free of this concept of Dima yet. So for now, that's okay. His focus right now is just to stay alive. It's to survive. But in time, he will leave the city. And he knows that the vultures are coming for him because they're starting to sense that weakness. The shadows are coming. But it's okay. And the reason it's okay, it comes in verse number 3. Last year, I needed a change of pace. Couldn't take the pace of change, moving hastily. So this goes back to what we were talking about in Pet Cheetah, with Tyler not being able to deal with the pace. It's something that he had to get used to. Life was moving at a certain pace. It was going too fast for him. So he needed to find a way to slow down things around him to a point where he was comfortable and not put himself in a situation where he had to live up to the pace that was around him. That's what I saw the pet cheetah being symbolic of. This pet cheetah is making beats at a faster pace than how it runs. Cheetah being the fastest land animal. That's quite impressive. That's a really fast pace. So for Tyler to keep up with that, he would have to do a lot, but his way of dealing with it is to slow down time. With verse 3, we have something similar. He needed a change of pace, so his way of dealing with it was to move at his own pace. It was to take a step back, distance himself from the situation, and allow things to slow down to a point where he was comfortable. So that's how I see that last verse there. And then it ends on, "But this year, though I'm far from home, entrenched, I'm not alone. These faces facing me, they know." So I'm intrigued here. Is he talking about the year off they took? Did they take that year off to make a bit of a change of pace, to really go back and rethink and come back with the best content they possibly could? And when he's saying, "But this year, though I'm far from home, entrenched, I'm not alone," for the upcoming year, as of the release of this album, 21 Pilots are going to be touring, so he's going to be far from home. And despite him being far from home, despite him no longer being in the comfort of some of the things that do help him, he's going to be on tour, performing at shows, something that he said he truly enjoys. You know, in Lane Boy on Blurryface, he says, "My creativity is only free when I'm playing shows." Making music is one of the ways he knows how to deal with his emotions. It's how he copes. But performing at shows is definitely another outlet for him. Here in Leave the City, he's saying the faces facing him. So the people out there in the crowd, they understand. They understand him. They understand what he's going through. They understand what he's talking about. There's a connection there, and that connection helps him. You know, even throughout this album, he's talking about how important that connection is. Bandito is a song that seems to be dedicated to that connection. Fantastic way to end off this great album. I enjoyed this album a lot, and it was not what I expected, to be honest. Coming into this, I expected Dima to be a lot more present within this album. I expected more explicit mentions to Dima. They kind of let that video series and all of that information they put in that website, they let that all speak for itself, and they let this album stand on its own. And, you know, overall, this album is just so well put together. The sound is so great. There's a variety, again, which is similar to Blurryface in that sense. Just this variety of sounds that keeps you really intrigued to hear what this band could give you next on this album. You're just always waiting to be surprised, and they accomplished doing that, both through instrumentals and through vocals. I highly enjoyed this. I respect the amount of work that went into this. A lot of work went into these lyrics. A lot of work went into these instrumentals. A lot of work went into putting them together, and it just came together so well. And then on top of that, the progression of these songs throughout the album, it works so well. It's just this album you could listen front to back, and you're just gonna feel like you're being taken on this journey. And I just really appreciate that about 21 Pilots albums. This is 3 albums of theirs that I've heard, and all 3 have shared that trait. This is just another solid entry. That's what I thought, guys. Let me know what you guys thought of the album. Let me know what you guys thought of this reaction in the comments down below. I always love hearing your input. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a thumbs up. You know I appreciate the support, and I will see you all next time. Have a great day, y'all.